Good morning, everyone. I'm Sylvia Perez. We interrupt our program to bring you some breaking news. President Biden is going to be speaking from the White House after that horrifying bridge collapse in Baltimore. We are waiting for him to take the podium right now. But here's what we do know, and here's what we can tell you. A massive cargo ship leaving the port of Baltimore apparently lost power at some point. This happened at about 1:30 in the morning. That boat then issued a mayday call, and we are told that before it hit that major bridge, it was able to issue a mayday call, hitting that bridge, and then as you can see, the bridge collapses. Well, that mayday call apparently gave officials a brief chance to stop any cars and were able to evacuate anybody who was in the area. The problem was there were some workers fixing some potholes, some construction workers are now reported missing. 2 workers were rescued, still waiting to hear more on their condition. This is a major bridge in Baltimore called the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Again, this happened overnight at about 1:30 in the morning. This is still a developing story as search and rescue crews continue, and they have been ever since this happened, looking for any possibilities of people who might have fallen in. Initially, it was thought that there were some drivers who might have been submerged after this bridge collapsed, but apparently that mayday call came early enough that they were able to prevent anybody from driving past that bridge. And those workers are being called heroes this morning because they were able to stop any oncoming traffic from going on to that bridge. Governor Wes Moore has declared a state of emergency in that area. We are told that Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is also on his way to that area to get some updates. So we do know too that the boat hit a pillar of the bridge, and those who were on that cargo ship that you can still see from this live picture, apparently everybody on board that cargo ship is fine and was not injured. What we do know about the ship, the New York Times is reporting that the ship is called the Dolly, and that ship had an inspection, according to the New York Times, that it took in June, and at that time, that inspection revealed that the vessel had some deficiency issues that were related to what's known as propulsion and auxiliary machinery. The deficiency apparently concerning some gauges and thermometers. We don't know if this has anything to do with what happened at 1:30 overnight in that area, but this is some information that has become available. Early indications suggest, as I said, that there was no traffic crossing at the time. They are still trying to get more information available to bring it to the public. As you can imagine, this is a major thoroughfare for the people who live and work in that area. This is a bridge that is actually part of I-695. If you are familiar with that area at all, then you know there are a lot of cars that go back and forth and use that bridge as a major outlet. We are, as I said, waiting for the president to take the podium any moment right now as search and rescue crews are continuing their efforts. We have been getting updates ever since this happened on what the search and rescue crews are currently trying to do, and we're waiting to find out any new information, but they have been very good about keeping us posted on what's going on. But as you look at this live video, the pictures are just frightening to see. This is a major disaster, a major catastrophe, which is why the governor has declared this state of emergency, and which is why we are also waiting to hear from the president in regards to his reaction to what has happened overnight. But take a look as the camera zooms in. You can just see sections of that bridge underwater. The video of the impact is very disturbing to watch as well. No word on how much time lapsed between the mayday call and the collapse. The president is taking the podium. Let's listen.
Good afternoon. Before I leave for North Carolina, which I'm going to do in a few minutes, I want to speak briefly about the terrible incident and accident that happened in Baltimore this morning. At about 1:30, a container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which I've been over many, many times commuting from the state of Delaware either on a train or by car. I've been in Baltimore Harbor many times. And the bridge collapsed, sending several people and vehicles into the water, into the river. And multiple U.S. Coast Guard units, which are stationed very nearby, thank God, were immediately deployed along with local emergency personnel. And the Coast Guard is leading the response to the port, where representatives from the Federal Highway Administration, the FBI, the Department of Transportation, the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as Maryland officials and Baltimore Police and Fire, are all working together to coordinate an emergency response. Officials at the scene estimate 8 people were unaccounted for still, not still, were unaccounted for. That number might change. 2 have been rescued, 1 without injury, 1 in critical condition. And the search and rescue operation is continuing for all those remaining as we speak. I spoke with Governor Moore this morning, as well as the Mayor of Baltimore, the county executive, both United States senators and the congressman. And my Secretary of Transportation is on the scene. I told them we're going to send all the federal resources they need as we respond to this emergency. And I mean all the federal resources. And we're going to rebuild that port together. Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here. Personnel on board the ship were able to alert the Maryland Department of Transportation that they had lost control of their vessel, as you all know and reported. As a result, local authorities were able to close the bridge to traffic before the bridge was struck, which undoubtedly saved lives. Our prayers are with everyone involved in this terrible accident and all the families, especially those waiting for the news of their loved one right now. I know every minute in that circumstance feels like a lifetime. You just don't know. It's just terrible. We're incredibly grateful for the brave rescuers who immediately rushed to the scene, and to the people of Baltimore. I want to say, we're with you. We're going to stay with you as long as it takes. And like the governor said, you're Maryland tough, you're Baltimore strong, and we're going to get through this together. And I promise we're not leaving. Here's what's happening now. The search and rescue operation is our top priority. Ship traffic in the Port of Baltimore has been suspended until further notice, and we'll need to clear that channel before the ship traffic can resume. The Army Corps of Engineers is on the spot and is going to help lead this effort to clear the channel. The Port of Baltimore is one of the nation's largest shipping hubs, and I've been there a number of times as a senator and as a vice president. It handles a record amount of cargo last year. It's also the top port in America for both imports and exports of automobiles and light trucks. Around 850,000 vehicles go through that port every single year, and we're going to get it up and running again as soon as possible. 15,000 jobs depend on that port, and we're going to do everything we can to protect those jobs and help those workers. The bridge is also critical for travel, not just for Baltimore, but for the Northeast Corridor. Over 30,000 vehicles cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge on a daily basis. It's virtually, it's one of the most important elements for the economy in the Northeast and the quality of life. My transportation secretary is there now. As I told Governor Moore, I've directed my team to move heaven and earth to reopen the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to work hand in hand with the support of Maryland to support Maryland whatever they ask for. We're going to work with our partners in Congress to make sure the state gets the support it needs. It's my intention that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort. This is going to take some time. The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way until the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt. You know, we're not leaving until this job gets done. Not leaving until then. So I just want to say God bless everybody who got everyone harmed this morning and their families. And may God bless the first responders, many of whom risking their lives. And the reason I'm not going to take a lot of questions, there's remaining issues that are open, and we've got to determine what's going to happen in terms of the rescue mission and the like. But
Do you plan to go to Baltimore, sir? And if so, how quickly?
I do, and as quickly as I can.
You said the federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious, this was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you
That
mentioned
could be, but we're not going to wait for that to happen. We're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened.
What did you make of
Mr.
Israel's
President.
decision not to attend this meeting this week?
Oh, I don't want to get into that.
Regarding
Plenty of
Rockwell.
time to talk about Rockwell.
you mentioned the port.
Mr.
The port.
President.
Can I ask about cars? About the port.
So we have been listening to a live news conference with President Biden talking about that horrible bridge collapse in Baltimore, Maryland. Here's what we know. He has updated some new numbers now. 8 people are now unaccounted for. 2 people were rescued after this accident happened. 1 person is listed in critical condition at the hospital. Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, on his way. The president saying that the government is going to do whatever it can to try to fix these repairs, but right now their main concern is the search and rescue. But just to let you know how vital this bridge is, about 30,000 vehicles cross this bridge on a daily basis. And so they, of course, have stopped ship traffic in that area as well. We're going to have a complete wrap and an update for you coming up on Fox 32 News at Noon. Hope to see you then.